these next few lessons, you're going to start reading the novel To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. There's some important information you should know before you get too far into the story. The first thing I want to talk about is a historical background. The setting of the story is Macomb, Georgia, which is a fictional town. The time period is 1933 to 1935. We're in the heart of the Great Depression, where families are poor and Hitler is just starting to come to power in Germany. Slavery was abolished in 1864, but a lot of Southerners still believed in white supremacy. Segregation exists in this story. Blacks may not sit in the same sections as whites. They have separate facilities as well. There's not a lot of mixing between races in our story, as you'll see. Historically, there's also a big gender bias. Women are considered the weaker sex, and education is not important for them. Wealthy women, and we'll see some of those characters, are expected to supervise the staff and delegate. Men were not seen as nurturing. A lot of our characters will break these molds. Poor white families were having a hard time too. Most of them were hard-working, honest, and very proud of the work they did. They survived on very little and made do. It was very important, particularly in the South, for them to pay back their debts, even if it was with hickory nuts, turnips, holly, or other items that they could grow. This story also brings up the question of poor white trash people. These were considered dirty, lazy, good for nothing, didn't particularly participate in work, foul-mouthed, dishonest, and immoral. These folks do show up in our story, and you'll see them from time to time. The black community that is depicted in this story is seen as simple, honest, hardworking, and generally helpful, although uneducated. They're treated poorly, and you'll even see the racism that happens in the story. The main characters that are the most important is Scout, whose real name is Jean Louise Finch. Don't get confused, Scout is a girl. She's also our narrator. The story starts out with Scout looking back on her childhood. The story begins when she's 6 years old, so keep that in mind when you're reading her narration. She is inherently curious about life and loves learning new things. Her father is Atticus Finch. He's a widower, but an attorney by profession. He's well respected in the community, and generally, his family is wealthier than most in the community. He's a good citizen, and he values morals and is trying very hard to instill morals in his children. Scout's brother is Jem Finch. He's older, and he looks up to his father, but not in certain ways. Jem prizes athleticism, and he realizes that his father's not the most athletic. Jem probably changes the most over the course of the novel, so look for his changes. Calpurnia is the servant that works in the Finch house. Cal is smart, headstrong, and she watches after Jem and Scout. Atticus appreciates Calpurnia's common-sense approach to life. Then we have little Dill. Dill is a friend that Scout and Jem meet, who lives in Macomb with a relative during the summers. He loves to tell big stories. Take everything Dill says with a grain of salt. And finally, the most important character, and probably also the biggest enigma, is Boo Radley. He's an adult man who's been living in his home since the children can remember. The reputation in the community is that he's a lunatic, but really we can assume he's basically harmless, and he's being played up as a caricature. The children interact with Boo Radley in different ways, and his character is woven throughout the story. I hope you enjoy To Kill a Mockingbird, and if you have any questions about the story, let me know.